Hello, welcome to GenAI Lab 89641. In this lab, we will be using Copilot Chat to run a regression analysis to determine which factors impact product demand the most. Depending on the type of product you are producing in a business, you may recognize that there is a certain stretch of time each year where you may have significantly higher transactions or revenues or demand. This is what we would call a busy season, and it is important to recognize when your busy seasons are so that you can properly allocate resources within the business. So to get started here, we'll just go ahead and say start a new chat, just to make sure that everything's cleared out and it's not using any previous data. Next, we'll go ahead and upload the data set included for the lab. That way it can process it. Okay, and then after that, we'll just go ahead and ask it to um, please display the last 5 line items from the above data set. And we want to ask it to do this so that we can make sure it's actually analyzing the entire data set and not just the first few. Okay, so we've got year, month, product demand, a few other factors. Looks good. Okay, so next we will go ahead and say um, run a regression analysis on the full data set named GenAI 89641 lab data.xlsx. Let the dependent variable demand and the independent variables be average temperature, average rainfall, and busy season. And while that's loading, it's important to specify that you want it to run the regression analysis on the full data set that we uploaded, um, because otherwise it may attempt to just run a regression analysis on these 5 rows. So you really need to make sure you're specific there. Okay, so here we have our um, analysis. You can see we've got our R squared being 79.5%. It's basically saying that about 79.5% of, what's going on in the data set is explained by these factors. And then you also have adjusted R squared, which is a bit lower, and that's basically saying, look, there's a few factors in here that don't actually have a very significant impact on product demand, and so that would lower the R squared a bit. And then you got your F stat, and then the coefficients and p-values of each factor here. Okay, and after that, we'll go ahead and ask it to please display the um, results from the regression analysis as a scatter plot with a trend line. And this will just kind of make the data for each factor a bit easier to analyze and see kind of what the relationship is. So it loads. Okay. So as you can see, we have a graph for the product demand versus average temperature. You can see that there's a slight positive trend, meaning as the temperature gets a bit higher, the product demand increases. But as you can see, it's a bit scattered, and so it doesn't have the greatest impact. Um, Same with average rainfall here. You can see it's got a slightly more positive trend, meaning as we got more rain, we got a bit more product demand here. And then obviously the busy season. So you can see 1 indicating a busy season, 0 indicating not busy season, basically saying when it's a busy season, it's got a higher demand. Good. And then we'll ask it to divide the equation resulting from the regression analysis. Basically, when you perform a regression analysis, you can use the coefficients and the intercept and everything like that to form your equation. And basically, what we can do with this is we can use it to potentially predict future product demand, right? If we can look at historical data based off of weather, right? Historical temperature, rainfall, we can kind of plug that into this equation and kind of get a rough estimate as to what the product demand may be for future months. Um, and obviously, with the busy season, you have one. If it is a busy season, then you'll add that 202 for your product demand. Okay. And that's everything we've got there. So after that, we're just going to go ahead and ask it to please output the prompts I have given you into a Microsoft Word file named GenAI 89641 lab prompts dot no dot, sorry. Okay. And I like to put underscores here for the spaces because sometimes if I just put a space, it'll export the data, and then when you download it, there will be like a bunch of random characters in between the spaces. So I just put the underscores to make it a bit more easy to read. And then here we've got the prompts. And yeah, that pretty much concludes GenAI Lab 89641 using Copilot Chat to run regression analysis. Thank you.